Imagine having two fathers with entirely different approaches to life. One believes in the traditional path of education and job security, while the other is a rebel, rejecting societal norms. That's the intriguing premise of Robert Kiyosaki's Rich Dad, Poor Dad. In this captivating book, Kiyosaki takes us on a journey through his unique upbringing, where he learned valuable lessons from both Poor Dad and Rich Dad. Poor Dad, an educated man, champions the idea of a secure job and a steady paycheck as the road to success. On the flip side, Rich Dad, a high school dropout, dares to defy convention and follows his own path to financial freedom. This stark contrast between the two father figures forms the foundation of a thought-provoking exploration of wealth and financial success. But Rich Dad, Poor Dad is more than just a book. It's a transformational guide that challenges our beliefs about money and abundance. It encourages us to shift our mindset from "I can't afford it" to "How can I afford it?" and inspires us to uncover the hidden treasures of wealth creation. Join us as we delve into the wisdom of Rich Dad and unlock the secrets to financial empowerment. But before we continue, we would like you guys to subscribe to the channel, like this video, and hit the notification bell icon so you do not miss out on any amazing and entertaining content. Lesson 1. Jobs don't make you rich. Here's the first monumental lesson Robert learned from Rich Dad. The rich don't work for money. They make their money work for them. Let's dig into this idea more. When Robert was just 9 years old, he and his best friend Mike asked Mike's rich dad if they could make some money by doing odd jobs for him. Rich Dad agreed and paid them a tiny wage of just 10 cents per week to do minor tasks around his companies. Even in the 1960s, 10 cents was barely enough to buy a couple of pieces of penny candy. After a few weeks, Robert contemplated quitting this gig. After all, why was Rich Dad exploiting them with such low pay for their time? Here's the thing. Rich Dad knew this measly compensation was a teaching moment. He sat down with the boys and explained that the wealthy view jobs very differently than the poor and middle class do. For the rich, jobs are short-term ways to earn money while they focus on acquiring income-producing assets. Assets that will make them financially independent, so they don't have to rely on jobs and wages their whole lives. The middle class and poor, on the other hand, depend on jobs as their sole source of income for their entire working lives. They plan to work at a job for 40+ years and then collect whatever pension they've earned when they finally retire. To really drive this lesson home, Rich Dad cut Robert and Mike's pay all the way down to zero. He wanted to force them to think creatively about making money outside of traditional job paths. No more weekly paycheck that they could rely on. Necessity became the mother of invention. The boys gathered old comic books and started a neighborhood comic lending library in Mike's basement. For just 10 cents membership, all the local kids could come browse Rich Dad, Poor Dad's comic selection and borrow issues to read at home. This library was an instant success. With almost no effort, Robert and Mike earned over 90 cents a week from their classmates' small dues, much more than Rich Dad had ever paid them for their labor. Robert realized at a very young age that you can't rely solely on active job income to attain financial security. The rich understand this too. Instead, they acquire assets that earn them money passively, rather than depending on a job paycheck their entire lives. For instance, Rich Dad invested heavily in real estate. He owned apartments, commercial buildings, and raw land that brought him rental income every month, with minimal time and effort on his part. Owning these assets allowed Rich Dad to retire and leave the 9-to-5 much earlier than Poor Dad, who had to work for 45 years as a government employee before retiring with just a small pension. Lesson 2. Understand assets versus liabilities. This brings us to the second core lesson from the book. It's not about how much money you make from your job, it's about how much money you keep and control. The wealthy have a deep understanding of the fundamental difference between assets and liabilities. Do you? Let's examine these key concepts in detail. Assets are anything that puts money into your pocket on an ongoing basis. A rental property or apartment that provides steady rental income is an asset. Stocks that pay quarterly dividends are assets. Royalties from a book, song, or course you create can provide lasting assets. Liabilities take money out of your pocket regularly. Your monthly subscriptions like Netflix, Hulu, Spotify, etc. are all liabilities. Car payments, insurance bills, and gas costs are ongoing liabilities. The interest you pay on credit card debt is a massive liability that eats away at your income. Now here's where most people mess up. They focus their energy on liabilities instead of acquiring assets. The poor and middle class depend on jobs as their sole source of income. They then turn around and spend their hard-earned paychecks on liabilities like big house payments, new car loans, vacations, fancy clothes, and nice restaurant meals. Their lifestyle expenses keep pace with their income, leaving them stuck living paycheck to paycheck. There's nothing left over to invest in assets that can grow and generate wealth for them. Their income flows in and right back out. The rich do the exact opposite. They religiously minimize expenses and unnecessary liabilities, and they constantly acquire assets, businesses, real estate, dividend stocks, royalties, etc., that earn them money passively without requiring their personal time. The income from their assets allows them to buy even more assets, which brings in even more income. It starts compounding. But it all starts with fully grasping the difference between assets that make you money and liabilities that only take money from you. For example, when Robert finally had enough money saved up for a down payment, instead of buying his dream home, which would have increased his living expenses, he bought another rental property instead. Although less glamorous, this property added a brand new asset to his portfolio that would provide ongoing passive income in the form of monthly rent from tenants. Lesson 3. Build your own business. The third pivotal lesson from the book is, don't confuse your profession with your actual business. Most people rely on their job or chosen career field as their sole source of income. They might get promotions or annual raises, but they never create any real assets outside of their job to foster true wealth. This is essentially being an employee forever, in Robert's view, trading your time for money without having anything tangible to show for it later on. The rich do the opposite. They focus intently on building assets and alternative income streams completely outside of traditional W-2 jobs. The wealthy realize that real financial independence doesn't come from a job or profession. It comes from owning, building, and cultivating assets, things that can earn money for you 24/7 with little ongoing effort on your part. Robert Kiyosaki himself exemplified this lesson perfectly. For years, he worked a corporate 9-to-5 sales job that provided a steady paycheck, but he was motivated and determined on the side. He religiously used his active job earnings to invest in income-producing real estate. Within just a few years, the passive rental income from his properties started to surpass the income he was earning from his sales job. That was the moment he knew it was time to quit traditional employment and focus on growing his own assets full-time. So, what are some realistic assets you can start building, just like Robert did, that can make money for you? Real estate is huge. You can get into rental properties or fix and flip houses. The stock market offers assets like dividend stocks. You could start an online business that earns revenue, launch a YouTube channel in a niche you're passionate about, write an ebook or course that pays ongoing royalties. The options are endless, but the key is to identify assets that can earn you money passively without requiring you to actively work for it day to day. Start focusing today on acquiring these types of assets and alternative income streams. They hold the keys to truly freeing yourself from relying on a conventional job or profession. Remember, financial freedom comes from owning and cultivating assets, not from effort-based jobs. There you have it. The 3 core money lessons from Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Don't live job-dependent like the poor and middle class. Buy income-producing assets and build businesses to generate true passive wealth. Of course, living by these principles is often easier said than done, but adjusting your mindset and understanding is a huge first step. Let me know what you thought of these lessons. Have your views around work, money, financial freedom changed at all after hearing this? Looking forward to reading your comments. And if you gained value from this video, do smash that like button. Also, subscribe if you want to see more content like this. Thanks for sticking with me through this long video.